There we go, we're recording. So good morning. I'm really excited that everyone's here. It's definitely not a normal year, but I'm glad that we are getting some kind of normalcy with events and getting to know students and our faculty and staff. I'm Abby, and I work in the Student Activities Office. So if you have any questions about clubs or getting involved or any resources that you need to get to, I'm always here. I can drop my email in the chat so that you have my contact information. So just know that I'm always here. And then with that being said, let's go ahead and get started on today's event. If the panelists want to go ahead and introduce themselves, y'all can kind of go one by one, and I will mute myself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Rameca Leary. I'm Business Department Faculty and Coordinator of Diversity Initiatives here at the college. I've actually been at PSC since 2014. I started as an adjunct in the Department of English and Communications under Dr. Payton, and then in 2017 I became a full-time tenure-track faculty member in the Business Department. Then in 2019, although I am still faculty, I transitioned into my new role as Coordinator of Diversity Initiatives. So glad to be here.
All right, I'm Melissa Sears. I am an associate professor in the Natural Sciences Department, and I originally started in June of 2011 at the Collegiate High, and I taught there for a couple of years, and then moved over to the Natural Sciences Department in 2015. So I've been here for 9 years, which is crazy. I am also one of the advisors for the biology club. So if you're interested in science or just being with like-minded science people, think about joining that. And I teach mainly non-majors biology, but this semester will be my first semester teaching a majors bio class, which is biological diversity. And then my degree is in marine biology, and that is the other classes that I teach, which is marine lecture and lab.
My name is Deborah Woods. I go by Debbie, and I'm in the math department. I started adjunct in January of 2014, I believe, and then I started full-time in the fall of 2015. That's about it.
Oh, there we go. I was having trouble unmuting myself. Hi, I'm Mike Bailey, assistant professor. I started teaching, I think, 2012 as an adjunct, and then went full-time in 2015. And I teach the Introduction to Philosophy course in ethics and logic. And I'm also one of the coaches of the PSC Brain Bowl team, which goes to competitions throughout the state, although this year should be very interesting. But we're always looking for new team members. Okay.
Awesome, thank you guys. So is there any starting off questions? I have a couple questions to kind of get your brains thinking on what kind of things you want to ask them. But if anybody has a question right now, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Okay, so I think I'll go ahead and get started. This is something I kind of wanted to know as an incoming freshman. From your experience teaching, what qualities do successful students in your courses possess? So what do students need to be prepared to do?
I love this question, Abby, and it's funny that you ended up being the one that made it, because you were one of my students, and I think I've said this in class a couple of times. I have some notes written down, so if I keep looking down, that's what I'm doing. To me, your mindset in class is so important. You need to be open-minded. You need to be able to embrace challenges, but also criticism. And I know that there's a lot of students out there that struggle with accepting criticism. And it's not that as an instructor, we're trying to beat you down or tell you that you're wrong. We're just trying to make you better. And being able to, have that open mind coming into class. Like, for example, students come into a biology class saying, I hate science. I have to take this class and I don't want to be here. It's awful. But if you just, put that aside and say, I can do this and I'm here and I'm going to try to learn something, I think that it changes your whole experience. And then a couple other things, being persistent. So if you struggle in one concept, don't let it get you down. There's always a way to figure out how to bounce back. And you need to be confident, but realistic. And I say this because there are some students that are like, I'm gonna pass this class with doing minimal work. And then they're not realistic about what, they're putting into the class. So those are my ideas, but mindset, always keep a good mindset.
One thing I'd like to jump in and add is that students should be good listeners. Also, never be afraid to ask questions. That is so important. So we as professors here at PSC, we have an open door policy. We never want anyone to feel that we are unreachable because we are here for you. In reference to what you just said, and this is a little phrase I use sometimes in my classes, I don't want students to jump off the train. So I want you to start with vigor and continue with that tenacity. I don't want you to fall off the train, meaning near the end of the semester, if you see that you have an A in the course and you're thinking about skipping a discussion post or slacking off for an exam, you need to stay in the race until you're done. This is a part of life. It's a continuum. We as professors notice a lot in students, and one thing that students ask us to do from time to time is to write recommendation letters. And when we go back into the annals and we review our grades and see if someone jumped off the train versus someone who didn't, that could be a telltale sign. So stay in the race, please. We are a family at PSC. We're rooting for you 110%. Those are a few things I'd like to share.
All right, mine's pretty. Oh, sorry. A lot of what's already been said. The one thing is good time management. I think is a very important quality because there's going to be a lot of assignments, a lot of courses, and a positive attitude about learning. I think, like Professor Sears says, like even though it might not be your field, this particular class you're taking, you're still taking a class, and you have an opportunity to learn something about that field. And open-mindedness, I think, is an important quality, especially with the subject that I teach, and a willingness to hear opposing points of view, and also a willingness to be able to change your point of view, and also being fine with making mistakes. That's part of the learning process. And trust me, it never ends. Because one thing that when you become a professor, I always think of a professor as a perpetual student. We just never stop being a student. And you're going to keep making mistakes. But there's, of course, that's one of the great learning opportunities, right? That's the best way to learn, I found. And I make lots of them.
Yeah, I agree with everyone so far. And of course, I teach math, and I find that math is you either love it or hate it. There's not too much in between. And if you can come into the class with a positive attitude, like Melissa said, with the science, math and science are so related. Math has so much, it builds on itself more so than any other course does. And so you really need to come into the class with the prerequisites that you need. If it's been 15 years since you took intermediate, then you probably don't necessarily need to jump into college algebra. You might need to go back. But even if you do, the willingness to get help. We do have the math tutoring lab, and I'm available, email, that kind of stuff. But the can-do attitude that I'm just going to do whatever it takes to be successful. But I think the attitude is a big thing. what is it? Fake it till you make it. So just try to keep telling yourself it's not so bad. You know, I think that everybody can learn it. It's may take more than one time. You know, people get depressed because maybe they don't make the ABC, you know, but even if that happens, go through and learn everything you can the first time so that if you do have to repeat a class, then you've seen it all, you know. And math is one of those things that it may take a while to get, but have that positive attitude. Do your homework, you know, do the work that your professor assigns you, and do as much as you need to do. Homework is not punishment, it's practice. So I think that's about it. And again, be willing to get help and talk to your professors. Like Dr. Leary said, we are here for you. We're just people, you know, we're just people. We're nobody special. We're just people, just like everybody else. So don't be afraid to talk to us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I loved all of your answers because as like a past student of a lot of you guys, that is totally everything they said is great information for you guys to take in. And something to add as a student, just to give you a little perspective, is find a buddy in the class. If you find a buddy, you're way more motivated and you can get perspectives from them that you don't necessarily have, of like, wait, did you understand that? And they might have. And then they might say, wait, did you understand that? And you might have. So it's really good to try and find a buddy, and even virtually maybe peg someone out in the first class that maybe said something and you're like, oh, I liked that, and find them in your Canvas shell and send them an email and be like, hey, can we be course buddies? Because I did that all the time and it is really helpful. Does anybody have a question at this point? You can put it in the chat, you can unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi, my name is Rameca Leary. I'm a photography major for PSC. I was wondering how with the coronavirus and with the school reopening, how are you guys taking steps to come back to the classroom? Like I see some instructors doing live online, some others doing hybrid. How are you guys combating that?
You want me to jump? I'll jump on this one, I guess. So basically, this is a hard one to answer because a lot of us as instructors have really just figured out what our schedules are going to be. I mean, last week. And we are having to be flexible. I'm only teaching one face-to-face class, and I'm teaching mainly live online. And that was partially because I chose to do that, but also because I was assigned to do that. So the college, like the administration here, they decided that they wanted to do mainly live online. That was their call. And then they said, well, we need to have some face-to-face to help certain students that really need that. And I think they decided to put like 1 or 2 at most face-to-face of different sections. And did that answer your question? So yeah, and you'll notice if you've been here before, I don't know if this is your first semester, but the classrooms we're teaching in are going to be set up way different than what they have in the past. Like I just went in my classroom and it's a huge classroom, but there's only 20 seats in there. And everybody is sitting really far away. Nobody's gonna be anywhere near my vicinity of me teaching. So there are a lot of precautions being taken in the classroom if you have one face-to-face. So that's great.
Okay, so any other questions? I have a good list of things that I kind of thought about as in a mindset of a first-time in college student. But if anybody has a question, feel free to put it in the chat as I'm talking. I love to talk, so you're gonna have to stop me. So I think a really good question to ask, oh, if we have a textbook on back order, what do we do? I'm a first-time student. That is from Jeffrey Jones. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, let me know.
I mean, every instructor is going to be different when it comes to you know, the textbook at the beginning of the semester. I generally plan my classes so that I don't use the textbook the first week, and because that's drop add period and students are, you know, able to change their schedule, so I don't want to jump into the textbook right away. So I start in the second week, but you have to have a textbook for most classes. And so it's you know, just work with the instructor if you're having a particular you know, you've ordered, and if you've been paying attention to the news, there's, you know, an issue with the postal service at the moment. So you know, just reach out to your instructor and let them know that you've ordered the textbook, and that, you know, and see what they can maybe work with you on that.
Yeah. I also found I had a bunch of, I rented textbooks and things like that, and they would have issues with back orders or things like that. And a lot of times if I was having a problem, everybody else was having a problem. So don't feel singled out. I'm sure that everything will work out as long as you communicate with your professor and all those things. So yeah, continue to drop some questions in the comments. A good question to ask is, what's your teaching style? And do you have like kind of an idea of what other teaching styles other professors have?
I'm just going to keep going first to make this a little easier, just to have some kind of order. I consider myself very flexible when it comes to teaching, because no matter if I have a plan for the day, like I swear that every time I have a major plan, like it always gets changed, or, you know, something is different. And I'm very visual. Again, Abby was one of my previous students, so she could probably tell you I draw a lot in class. I make students draw a lot in class, and I'm vibrant. If you can't tell, I'm pretty active with my, you know, speech, and interactive. Unfortunately, this is hitting me very hard because I like to be in a face-to-face class, working one-on-one with students, but also having students work together. So this is going to be a whole new territory for me. I'm quite sad about it, because I think one of the best ways to learn in a science class is by the interaction. And like Abby said earlier, finding a buddy, like that is one of my biggest things. Find somebody that you can always bounce ideas off of. And you can still do that now, and I think what I've been told by students that has helped is that I'm very motivating and supportive. If ever you are in a place where you're struggling, or just you need somebody to talk to about life, my door is always open, and I have people come all the time, and I love to help. So that's one reason why I'm a teacher, is I really like helping others and motivating others to be at their greatness. I think that that's what all professors should be. So that's my answer.
Okay. So I generally think of myself as being, I'm strict but flexible. Right? So generally, if a student comes to me and talks to me about any issues they're having with getting assignments done, you know, depending on the circumstances, I can be flexible, but I do like things turned in on time. You know, if I schedule a test for a particular day, that's when I want it done. And so as far as like in my style in the classroom, it's now I've been doing live online for a couple of years now, so I don't really notice a difference in the in-person versus doing this live online. So it's I know that learning curve is a little tough at first, but you know, because you can still share if you have PowerPoints, or there's a whiteboard function, and you can discuss individually. You got the chats, and so because mine is mostly discussion based. Which means students need to be prepared and do the readings. And another thing I'm kind of strict on, if I assign a reading, there's a reason for it. And so it's mostly, I mostly don't plan out a lecture. So it's sort of, I guess I call it unrehearsed lecture. I have just basically an outline of what I want to talk about, but then as the students add things in with the discussion, it can take us in a completely different direction than I thought, and that's great. Generally, every class is different, and I like to kind of mold the lectures in the class for the individual class and that particular group that I'm dealing with. So, and I usually tell students, don't worry about writing down the notes on the PowerPoint. That's just to keep me focused. It's like, it doesn't mean it's going to be on a test. It's just an outline, just to kind of keep us on track here. But everything's pretty much just back and forth with the students. What did you explain what they're reading? What did you get out of it? What do you think? And so forth. So, so somewhat relaxed, while at the same time, we have a particular, we got to get through certain things at certain times. So that's generally how I teach. Dr. Leary's back.
Well, in math, I explain how to do a problem, and then we work together and that kind of stuff. It's not really discussion oriented, because most of the time I don't think math goes that way. But like I say, I pretty much just work in problems. I try to work problems like what you're going to see in your homework, so that when you get to your homework, you should have the notes. I do record my lessons either using Zoom if it's live online, which 4 of my classes are face-to-face. So I record them using Panopto, and so students can go back and listen. But math is just kind of working problems. It's not real exciting for most people, and that's pretty much the way class goes.
Dr. Leary's back. Yes, I'm sure MediaCom they probably saw your schedule and was like, that is the time I'm gonna go work on that line right now.
Talk about freaking out in worst time. So I missed a lot of it. Is there anything, I don't know which question you were on?
We were talking about teaching style. If you want to go over that, we talked a little bit about the qualities, which you did get to cover, the qualities of a student, and we covered someone's question on what to do when a textbook is back ordered. So if you want to go ahead and talk on your teaching style and things like that. Okay.
I am an integrative kind of teacher. I very seldom sit down, but in a world of virtual teaching, you probably can't tell that. So if I were in a face-to-face class, I'd be moving around the class a lot, calling on people, keeping them guessing. Always keep them guessing, keep them intrigued. The other thing is I really encourage interaction, meaning the questions. Also regarding teaching, I vary it up so I don't do the same thing all the time. Let's say, for example, if we have a test that has some discussion questions and then we have a paper due, another assignment might be true, false, multiple choice. We may have some group projects. So I make it a potpourri of options because we definitely have different types of learning regarding varying teaching styles. And I like to adapt to that. I have found it to be pretty successful over my time, and students tend to embrace it. And mainly, like I said before, if students have questions regarding teaching style, because like you were saying, Mike, we learn from our students. They learn from us, we learn from them. So I'm my own worst devil's advocate. I'm always putting myself in the shoes of my students. If I were a student, wouldn't I want this to happen or something else? So teaching style, that's my motto. I guess that's my equation. And the other question about books being on back order, in some cases, for example, when you're transitioning from one edition of a textbook to another, you can run into some issues. I do know that we have our regular bookstore on campus. Some of you may know about Textbook Brokers, which is located across the street. And I am told that they will work with people who have financial aid. In a worst kind of scenario, I have had in the past students that have actually had to go online to order books, but the most important thing to remember, make sure you have the right ISBN information and check with your professor. That's a flaw that sometimes students will have. They'll say, well, I went to the bookstore and they told me I only needed an access card, but you need to check with your professor. to see if you need that book and the access card. So always try to stay ahead of the game, and assumption, try to avoid that at all costs.
Awesome, thank you. Again, don't forget to put any questions in the chat. I just want to remind everyone that they can use the chat feature. It's almost 12, but I have one more question for you guys that I think would be really helpful for students to hear. In your experience, what has been the best form of communication for students to reach you? For example, office hours, email through Canvas, email through Pirate Mail. Which one do you guys utilize and why? And which one do you think students should use?
I just got finished recording a video for my online class saying this question or saying this answer. I only want students to email me through Canvas, if at all possible. And the reason for me saying that is it's the only place that I get student messages. And there's no extra junk there. I see student emails, and it also shows me what class you're in. So it's just very convenient for us as teachers to be able to go on Canvas and see your messages. If you email us in Pirate Mail, it gets mixed up with hundreds of other things. And I know myself, you know, there's times where I just don't see the email, or the quarantine system bounces your email out for some silly reason. So Canvas, to me, is the best source. But I mean, y'all might have other opinions on that one.
One thing that I'd like to add, and some students, like you were talking about earlier, Melissa, a lot of students and others that might want to take face-to-face over another mode, but right now we're facing a huge situation. But for students that only take face-to-face classes and really only have Pirate Mail and may not have a companion course, that might be their only option. So it definitely depends on the mode of the class. I definitely agree with you though, Canvas for me is the best way because I'm able to see which class they're in, the students. And if it's Pirate Mail, okay, which class of mine are you in? So we don't like assumption, but it definitely depends on the particular mode that's being offered for that class.
For me, it depends on the, you know, if it's just a quick question, then email is best. Yeah, I think Canvas email, I'll agree, is probably the best way to do it if you have that companion course. But if I have a student that's really struggling with something, with understanding, then an office visit under normal circumstances is ideal, which, you know, it's either in person or call the office phone during office hours. And that way I can really explain, because, you know, we learn as instructors how to read body language and to tell if a student's understanding something or not. And it's, you know, philosophy, a lot of, I think students get, you know, there's sort of a pop culture idea that philosophy, you can just say whatever you want and all opinions are equal. That's so far from the truth. Right? And so students do struggle with understanding what a particular philosopher is trying to say, because they're trying to say something specific. It's not literature. You can't just interpret it however you want. Right? No offense to English department, but you know, if a student is really having difficulty understanding something, then talking to me during office hours is the best way to do it. That way I can really explain what you're having difficulty with. And often remind students too what office hours are for. And this would be a good for you guys to understand. Office hours are not the times we're in our office. And I often tell students they're not my office hours, they're your office hours. We're contracted to hold them for the sole purpose of meeting with the students. We can't do anything else during our scheduled office hours except meet with students. And so that's why that we have them. Take advantage of them. Come talk to us. It's like I said, if we didn't have the, you know, a pandemic going on, I would say in-person office visits is always the best. But I've started using the Zoom feature too to set up office hours through Zoom. So I have an office hour that's set up through Zoom, so students can still have that one-on-one interaction during the office hours time that's easy to set up. So, but other than that, yeah, email is probably going to be the best, next best thing.
And I would say the Canvas email for me as well, mainly because it's a 24/7 kind of thing. Office hours are very important and all, but we only have 10 a week. And with a lot of times students are sitting down to do their homework at night or whatever, and they run across a question or something. And so I just ask them to send me a screenshot, let me see what problem you're working on. And I just feel like it's something that's 24/7, maybe not 24/7, but I do try to check it even when I'm not working, at home and stuff like that. But so that would be my number one, and then come to office hours as well.
Awesome. Anything else to add from anyone before we start wrapping up?
I saw a question about where to get professors' emails.
Where do I get a professor's email information from? And Dr. Leary said call the PSD help desk, which is one way to do it. And I added their phone number right there. That is the student help desk. And then you can also, I believe, get it from Spyglass. But I will have to double check that. Does anybody else know that information?
Yeah.
I know for sure the help desk can get it to you. Yeah.
Abby, can I add one more thing that
yes,
I think would be very helpful? So this is something that was going to be an answer to one of my other questions that Abby had written. But one thing I want you to think of as a student, guys, is that if you treat your classes as if you are having a job, like, it will really benefit you. And I say that because if for some reason you're going to miss class or you would miss a job, you would call your boss to let them know, right? So if you treat your college classes as if, you are going to a job, you're going to put forth, or most people would put forth the effort as if they were getting paid and, they're being responsible. And I have students a lot of times say, well, I didn't know I needed to tell you. It's kind of important for me to know if you're going to miss a test, or that, you're not coming back to the class for 2 weeks, or, because at some point students do get withdrawn from a class if we don't see you for so many days. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And I think it will help set you up for success. To always, if I would tell my boss at a job that this is going on, or if I would make sure I do this because I'm getting paid for it, you should probably do the same thing for your college classes. And I think that's some really good advice for you new students. That's it.
Awesome. Anybody have anything else to add? I did add the link to the survey in the chat, so you guys can go ahead and copy and paste that. If it doesn't work, someone check that real quick and let me know. Fill that out so that we can get your free t-shirt to you. And yeah, I'll let you guys, if you have any closing comments or questions.
I'd like to jump back in for the second revisit.
Yes, of course.
Hopefully everybody can hear me. Can you hear me okay? I wanted to mention the PSC library, which is also offered online, and the writing lab. Those are two great resources for students. On the website under the students tab, there's a lot of information regarding that. And the only other thing, and just like you were saying, Melissa, students just to make sure as far as getting their assignments in on a timely basis in the business world, because I teach in the business department, I tell students all the time, if there's a $10 million deal on the table and you decide to roll over and pretty much just cut off the alarm and not roll in, more than likely you're going to end up losing your job. So you definitely have that positive mindset in terms of getting your assignments in on time, and just knowing that it's going to help you in the long run, because there's so many people vying for jobs in the marketplace. What will set you aside from the next person? So always stay in the race, have that tenacity.
I love that. Stay in the race. Keep it going. Be consistent. It's definitely a good reminder. So yeah, if that is everything we have for today, please jump in if you have any other questions or have any other statements. Make sure you come back for the upcoming events this week. We have a lot of good stuff coming up. Tomorrow we'll have perspectives from current students, so it'll be a panel just like this, but with students. So you get to see kind of that point of view, which is slightly different, some good information from them. Then we're going to do resource lifesavers on Wednesday, which will be things like the library, the tutoring lab, different resources on campus that you guys can utilize for free, which can help you a lot. And then Thursday will be our last one with staying involved, and that will be all about clubs and activities on campus. So I'm so excited that you guys came to our first event of the year. It was definitely very good for my soul. Good to see people and students. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you for being involved. And I can't wait to see you at other events this year.
Thanks, Abby, for hosting.
Yes, of course. It was so fun.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
R